Welcome to Beyond the Ballot AZ. I'm your host, Tom Collins, Executive Director of the Arizona Citizens Clean Elections Commission.
And I'm Gina Roberts, Voter Education Director for Clean Elections.
So this is a very exciting episode today because we're talking about the newest town in Arizona, Santan Valley. It was incorporated just a year ago, and this July, residents voted in their first official election. And that had in front of them electing the town council and 2 ballot measures to set the framework for how a future mayor will be selected.
This is so exciting. I think this is so interesting. And I love the fact that I am here and present for, this new town being born, I guess. But I really can't wait to hear from our guest. She is the town clerk and Santan Valley's actually second employee serving the approximately 100,000 residents who live in this new incorporated area. So the area is located, I believe, between Queen Creek and Florence. And incorporation happened in 2025 when about 28% of voters turned out and approved the incorporation. So at our July 21st primary election, it was a very big milestone for those voters of Santan Valley.
Yeah, and it really is a testament to how Arizona continues to change and evolve and grow in real time, that we still have new cities and towns being created. So stick around. We're here with Dana DeLong, the town of Santan Valley's clerk and the first town clerk of the town of Santan Valley. Dana, thanks for joining the show.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, so Dana, we wanted to get kind of the backstory of this effort to incorporate, how do people put something like that together, and what's the reason why someone would want to incorporate their town?
Well, it takes quite an effort to get this done. In fact, Santan Valley has tried numerous times in the past to get incorporated. There were four times that this went to a ballot, 2004, 2005, 2010, and 2018. And then in 2025, the voters successfully voted to incorporate into the town of Santan Valley. Some of the reasons that the citizens thought it was important to do this was, more local control over the government. They get to decide, if they want to have parks and how they want their planning and zoning to go, and, different corridors, and what part will be urban, what part will be, maybe kept a little bit more rural. But they get that local control and be able to do that. And that's what ultimately the voters voted to do.
That's super interesting. So this makes Santan Valley. What number are you in Arizona now?
We're the 92nd town in Arizona.
Dana, how many residents do you have? About 100,000?
104,000 approximately. Yeah. So it's quite a bit. And another kind of fun fact about that is normally when you incorporate a town, you never do it this size. Queen Creek was incorporated in 1989 and they only had 2,500 residents.
Wow, that's amazing. How exciting. So after the voters made their decision at the ballot box and they approved the incorporation, what happens next? Because how do you get staff? How do you get people on the council? Am I understanding correctly that Pinal County, their board of supervisors, had to make some initial appointments, but then we had our July 21st primary election. So what happened after the incorporation to get, sort of the town up and running with staff or council members? And then what did the voters vote on this past July?
In August of 2025 is when it went to the ballot to be incorporated. So the Board of Supervisors appointed an initial council. So they appointed 7 people to serve as the council. And from that 7 people, they selected the mayor and a vice mayor. So then the county has they are obligated then to kind of help us get up and running until the beginning of the fiscal year. So although we incorporated September 17th of 2025, our operational independence was July 1st at the beginning of the fiscal year. So that it's like, okay, now we're taking over all of these things that the county was helping us. We have a lot of IGAs in place to work with the different jurisdictions. But that also meant that we could hold our first election in the primary election on July 21st. So it was our inaugural election to elect the residents got to elect their council that they wanted. So we held that, and on the ballot was 7 seats. So we had 8 candidates and 2 write-ins as candidates for the election to fill those 7 seats. So 7 seats, and were elected in the primary. There's no runoff, so that's good. Those 7 people will then take office after the November election. There were two ballot measures on the ballot, and one was the direct election of the mayor. So in 2028, the residents will now be able to directly elect a mayor instead of having the council appoint one from their members. And then also they approved a 4-year staggered term for council. So the council can start to serve 4 years instead of 2 years, starting in 2028.
And those are the defaults in state law when you start up a new town, is that the mayor is selected from the town council and that the terms are set at this 2 years?
The mayor and the vice mayor were chosen, but this 4-year staggered term, what we're going to do is 3 members will serve 2 years term and 4 members will serve 4-year terms. So to pick who gets to serve 3 and 4, that would be out of the draw of a hat.
I think as a voter, that would be really exciting to participate in this very first election. What did your turnout look like?
Actually, it was during the primary, so it wasn't as big as we would hoped. It was only 16% turnout, but it was, just kind of that first ballot. And it was interesting. The direct election of the mayor that was overwhelmingly passed by like 93%.
So you were like the first or second, among the first people to be employed by the town. So give us a picture of what that's like. Did you get interviewed by the council and hired, and then you show up on the first day, and what do you do?
I tell everyone now that comes on, it's like, you've never had a job like this and you'll never have a job like this, because it's just, there's so many things. And the first employee was the town manager. So he started in December. Now, before he came, because we were incorporated in September, pretty much the council, and then we have a town attorney that work together to like set up agendas and do those things. Those first days you come in and you're like, there's no stapler. It's like, okay, I brought my own pen. That's good. I'm the second one. Then we hire a finance director. We were hired about the same time. And then you start, we have an HR director, and then the IT person was, so you start bringing in these director level positions, which is really interesting because in the worlds that we come from, you have all this in place and you have this staff, and now you don't have that.
Right. So yeah, so like, what are the first kind of phone calls you get? Like, so the town's up and running. Do you remember what the first phone call you got from a constituent was?
Well, for me, it was easy because it was kind of elections. Oh, there's election, that kind of stuff. But it's a lot about the, I need a permit, or are you going to require business licenses, or, because the planning part, the community development part of this goes on, the building and the builders. So those are some of the first calls you get. It's like, I want a permit to do this for my house. Well, now is it still the county or is it us yet? And how do we do that? And then transitioning over to be able to take those calls.
I think it's super impressive. And I, applaud you for taking this position, Dana, because I think, clerks, whether city, town, right? Clerks, they're the heart of the jurisdiction. If a resident doesn't know which department they need, they're going to call the clerk's office. And so that's amazing. But could you tell us a little bit more about just how your citizens can engage with the new town council? When are your public meetings? And, should they keep calling the clerk's office first? Or how do they find information about when they need to actually engage with the town?
The council meets the first and third Wednesdays of the month. Mostly residents can reach out to our main number or to our website, santanvalley.gov.
If you're coming to Santan Valley, you drive into Santan Valley, when do you think people will start to really notice that they're in a new town as opposed to driving just in Pinal County?
That's been kind of the hardest. I remember in February, I think I was at the meeting right before I started, and someone came up and said, we have to figure out, when are we in Santan Valley and what with all this? And then we were like, well, we need a logo. We need some brands. So we did a logo contest where we allowed citizens to present, the branding packages and what our logo would look like. And we had over 100 submittals. So then the council chose from that. So we just now have a brand. So now we're starting to market that, and we're going to start putting up the markers and things like that. So it's just those things that you just kind of assume and take for granted that we just don't have. So trying to do all that.
Well, that's really exciting. I think that's really neat. And it is, as Gina pointed out, we have stuff happening in Arizona. It's, maybe it's because we're still a relatively young state where we have, we had a primary in Gila Bend where they had to draw lots to determine who won. We have a new town in Pinal County and Santan Valley. So when you're doing this work in elections particularly, but in civic engagement, what is your favorite part of that? And what do you find connects you with voters?
The exciting part about this is just being able to talk to those residents. It's so funny because when people come in, they're like, we all kind of get up. It's like, go talk to them, because it's just kind of neat to hear from them. And they've been so patient with us and being able to do this. But I think that they're excited and we're excited. And it feels like you're all in this together. And I remember when I first met with the council, I was so impressed by this council. I worked for a lot of councils, and they have this goal, and it's, and everyone has, different thoughts on things, but they really come together and let's do what's best for this community, because it's been so long not being able to put them first.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Ballot AZ. I'm Gina Roberts.
And I'm Tom Collins. We'll see you next week.